Thank you guys all so much for coming on. Really excited for the season. We have head coach Jim McElderry. He'll be available to answer your questions. If you guys could just use the hand raise feature on Zoom. If you have a question, I can call on you. We can get this going. So whoever wants to kick it off, if you want to raise your hand. Go ahead, Glenn.
Jim, before we get to the team, you had Brighton on campus for a pretty good amount of time. I'm wondering how much you and your staff were able to get to interact or see what was going on, and if you pulled some things out of that you're going to use yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the quality of the players is fun to be around, watching Premier League players train and play. But I think watching their staff work was maybe more interesting to us in terms of how they used our facility and pre and post stuff that they did with their players. Nothing that is rocket science, but really interesting to watch how much care they give individual players, especially guys coming back from injury, how they work with the strength coaches. A lot to take away, and even just the sessions. They play some really good soccer, as you know, and so watching them work and how they kind of build sessions was a lot of fun. Again, it's not rocket science, but it's just little subtle things that they're doing and how they look after players. So we're lucky to have them here. It was fun for our group to be around them and learn from them, and have some of our players watch some of their sessions was a lot of fun for everybody.
So the players got a chance to see some of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the guys are really interested in it. Guys that maybe want to see the quality of the players. But I think we have, as you know, Glenn, it's like you always have guys on your team that, coaching is maybe in the back of their minds and they're just watching some things. And, De Zerbi is, maybe one of the top 5 most popular coaches right now in terms of, how people see his future as really one of the top managers. So, a quiet guy, worked well with the players, and, you could see he's got a good connection with a lot of the group. Always something to take away watching these guys work.
Cool. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, go ahead, Alex.
First off, Coach, thanks for your time today. Congrats on a great year last year as well, historic year, Big Ten champs. Looking forward to covering you in 2023. I'm curious about Kieran Dalton, because last year, a great year, freshman came up and took over that job as that main goalkeeper. What are your expectations for him in 2023, and how can he further build off his success from last season?
Yeah, I think I talked about this a lot last year. As I thought we were really lucky last year in that we had not only Kieran played well, but Ari was really good, and we just had a good goalkeeping group. And I think the same with this year. As we've said to Kieran and Ari, it's about competing every single day. So I think they did a good job of pushing each other while also having a good relationship with each other. We also have a new goalkeeper, Andrew Noel, who's a New Jersey native that played in the Red Bull Academy, went to University of Pittsburgh for the first 2 years, and then transferred back to us this summer. So we think we've got a group of 3 guys that are going to help each other. But in terms of what these guys can work on, and Kieran in particular, it's, for him, it's just continuing to train. He loves to practice. You have to kind of pull him off the field. He's a confident guy. And I think for him, it's a little bit just of naturally getting a little stronger, getting a little bit more kind of involved in the weight room just to kind of get the most out of himself. But, I think he and Ari both have chances to play a lot for us this year. And I'm looking forward to kind of see how they can take that next step from where they were last year. And as you said, Kieran ended the season on such a high, in that he was playing, I think, as well as he's ever played, and really made the players in front of him better, which is a big quality for a goalkeeper. And I think that's something that is a big strength of his, getting guys around him to believe that he's a top goalkeeper, and he plays with confidence and again, makes their jobs easier. So I think it's just little subtle things that these guys are continuing to work with. Tyler works with our goalkeepers and does a great job with them. So I'm looking forward to them even getting better, and I think it's an area of strength in our program.
Just a quick follow-up. if I may. Again, we saw his great play last year. How can you see him develop also as a leader in his sophomore season in
Yeah,
2023?
yeah, I think when guys are here as freshmen, regardless of how good they are, we had the rookie of the year in the conference in Cole Carruthers, but they're still freshmen, right? They're just worried about playing and competing and just surviving sometimes. So I think this sophomore year, the expectations rise for all those players that played a lot for us as freshmen. It's not only continue to play well, but now you've got a group of guys below you that need a little bit of help and maybe some mentoring, and you're the closest most of the time, the closest in age to those guys. So hey, can you add that to your game? And I think Kieran is one of those guys too. Can you take that next step and not only play well in the games and train well, but can you help guys around you maybe improve their game outside kind of the normal team dynamic or the match play? So listen, I feel like we have such a strong group in goal, and their kind of ability to enjoy training every day really makes them fun to be around, but also it really does push them to be better.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, I'm just gonna go right along my screen. So we'll go Eddie and then Don can go after Eddie.
Coach Eddie Kalegi, WRSU. I got two questions for you. Let's start with the attack first. You are returning a lot of pieces, which is great from the Big Ten championship winning team, but you lose MD Myers. You have so many playmakers back, but you don't have that finisher. Is there somebody who could kind of fill in the void of MD Myers, or is it really going to be about the committee all coming up, everybody stepping up and trying to get better and just trying to fill the void together? Or is there like a one guy who's going to take MD Myers' spot?
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Tough to replace 13 goals, right, with one player. But I think about this time last year, we knew MD Myers was an excellent player, but we didn't know if he was going to score 13 goals. And we think about our season last year. MD scored 13 goals, but he didn't score a goal in the last 6 games of our season. And now that's not because he didn't play well. He played great during those 6 games, and he helped everybody else. He was getting a ton of attention. But I think it was a good lesson for our team that even if you're not scoring goals, you can help us in the attack, because MD was vitally important even in those last 6 games where he didn't score. So I think it's going to be more by committee. If I had to give you an answer now, Eddie, is that we've got a lot of good players coming back. Some older guys in like a Jackson Temple and a Ula Malin who have played a lot of minutes for us. But then you got a guy like Jason Bereji, who had a great season last year, Ian Abbey, guys that had really good seasons last year. And now there's just a little bit more opportunity to play, whether it's a Pablo Avila graduates who, maybe played at times ahead of Ian, and obviously MD playing up front kind of the majority of the minutes. It just gives more opportunities. And then you got a guy like Nico Rosamilia, who was really unfortunate last year, being injured almost the whole entire season. And it's like, hey, where can he come and help us in the attack? So I think it's going to be a little bit more by committee, but I think we've got a big group of players who are very good going forward. So competition for playing time is challenging, but that's always a good problem to have. I think we've got a lot of depth, and different guys have a little bit of different ways of scoring and attacking. So I think we're going to be a tough team to deal with, a little bit different than we were last year, but I think still having a lot of talent and again, more opportunities for guys that want to play more.
And Coach, just a quick follow-up. This is sort of an eventful time in major conference college athletics with the whole realignment thing going on. It's crazy to think you guys are playing UCLA this year. Next year, that's a conference opponent. So from a soccer perspective, what kind of impact do you think the expansion of the West Coast into the Big Ten Conference will have on this program going forwards?
Yeah, that remains to be seen. I think there is some daunting looks in terms of travel, but it's exciting. You're looking at a team like UCLA joining our conference, who have not only been very good in the past, but are very good right now. On the men's side, you're looking at University of Washington, who 2 years ago were in the Final Four. So you're bringing in 2 huge programs that are national brands, but also selfishly for us, in terms of looking at men's soccer, are top programs. So it makes our conference stronger. Yes, travel can be a little bit daunting right now, but I think, hey, we got to trust that we can work that out and make good decisions as a conference and as a kind of a coaching group in whatever kind of say we have in it, which we don't know how much say we have in these things. But I think in the end, you're adding top level programs, really good coaches. So in the end, it makes our conference stronger. So it's always good to be part of a group of quality programs, quality coaches. It just makes everybody kind of push even harder.
Thanks, Coach. Best of luck this season.
Thanks.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
What's up, Dom? How you doing?
Good, good. Question about the back line. You graduate half the starters on defense, Divisio and McGuenick. You have three guys back with some significant starting experience. Who's emerged there, and what do you make of the defense a couple weeks out?
Yeah, I think that is a big kind of question mark for us, but mainly because guys are graduating, not so much that we don't think we have guys that can come in. I think, having Chris Teo come back is really helpful for us coming back for his kind of COVID year, so to speak. Just because he's played so many minutes for us and brings a confidence level there. Joey Zielinski has been vitally important for us, mostly as a center back, but has also played a little bit as a right back as well. Those guys have played a ton of minutes, and I think a guy like Cole Sotak is a guy we forget about sometimes because maybe he doesn't kind of get a lot of accolades, but he's played a ton of games for us and a ton of big minutes, has scored. He's just a guy who ends up playing a lot for us. He's a great guy, a real competitor, both in training and in games. So I expect Cole to be involved in all that as well. We have a player, Saab Kular, who was with us last year but transferred in, so had to kind of catch up on credits in order to play for us. So he's a kind of a fifth-year senior who played at Cleveland State prior to arriving here and played a lot of minutes for us. Again, didn't play a lot of minutes for them, didn't play for us last year, but he's a mature guy, a lot of Division I experience, a big guy, so kind of fills in some gaps for us. And then we have some freshmen that we think have opportunities to play. Devin Stopek is a Philly Union guy who's a kind of a real versatile player, could play centrally at the back, could play as a right back, maybe even as a defensive midfielder. And Nick Collins is a New Jersey guy who has had a great youth career, played at Gill and Gill St. Bernard's and then also for PDA, and is a big, strong center back. So I think we've got some real good options there. But as you mentioned, Dom, I think it's something that we've got to keep building relationships with each other during this preseason. But I also think we were lucky last spring in that we had an opportunity to have a lot of guys get minutes that to help fill those gaps. But as you said, it's always tough to replace guys. Tommy DeVizio was an amazing person for our team, and Hugo was just a real kind of special type player at times. So we miss those guys, but I think we've got some real depth and have attracted some really good players that have talent, but also the mentality to come in and play immediately.
Go ahead, Mike.
Can't hear you, Mike.
Yep, sorry, I think you're muted.
Okay. Sorry, Coach. Michael Cohen with Fox Sports Radio, New Jersey. When you look back a little bit towards last season, obviously coming off of the Big Ten championship and now looking forward to this year, for you, what's really the key? You go from being kind of the hunter to now being the hunted in a way in the Big Ten. And, of course, as you just mentioned, the Big Ten game bigger, expanding with those teams from West Coast. So what's really the key for you, for your guys, to moving forward and just turning the page to this new season?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I've had a lot of people say to me, hey, Coach, make sure your guys don't be overconfident and kind of, think about last year. I don't think that's an issue with this group. It doesn't really guarantee you any wins, but I don't think overconfidence or kind of thinking that they're automatically going to kind of win a championship is going to be a distraction for them. They're well aware how hard it was last year. You kind of remember the end of your, especially during the conference tournament when you're winning and celebrating and all those things. But our guys are well aware it's a grind. So, we were at the end of our first 4 games last year, we had 1 win, 1 loss and 2 ties. So it wasn't as if we kind of mowed down the competition easily. We know it's difficult. But with that said, we have a confident group of guys. We've always said we want to have high expectations and not be afraid of that. So, yeah, there's expectations on this group because now we've won something recently and been to the NCAA tournament. But I think for us, it's a confident group. So I want them to feel good about themselves as long as they're putting the work in, which they are. Then I want them to feel like they're one of the best teams in the country and that we should be able to compete and beat the best teams in the nation. We understand it's not that simple, and you're not going to win all your games, but last season gave us a lot of confidence in that we can win big games, we can play away from home and win games, and you look at a team like Indiana, who we beat in the final, they end up kind of running all the way to the national final. So we also get confidence from that we've played good teams and that those teams also had successful seasons too. So we're in a really, really challenging conference. It makes you tougher. Our guys understand that. We have enough old guys on our team that understand how difficult it is. But we also feel good about where we are and the type of players we're bringing in, and we want to be a confident group.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Matt, you can go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I'm Matthew Mangan from the Daily Targum. I had two questions for you. The first one was for your new midfielders, Kirk Kalov, one of them. He's a very talented player, very good goal scorer, and he gets a lot of assists often. How will he work with Jackson Temple in the midfield this season? Because they're both very talented midfielders.
Yeah, thanks. So Kurt is an interesting recruit for us, right? He went to Syracuse, but he's a New Jersey guy from Morristown here, went to Del Barton, and won a national championship last year, scored in the final, scored a penalty in the final. So, he's a confident guy. Kurt is really an unbelievably talented guy. It's about where he fits into our group. He's a technical guy, and like you said, he's really good in the attacking half of the field. But I think someone like, you bring up someone like Jackson. I think he's a guy that he and Jackson will work well together because Kurt not only can score some goals, but he likes knocking the ball and passing the ball. And Jackson, is a guy that wants to get in behind and score. And Jackson had a lot of success last year setting up goals too. So I don't expect that to be a problem at all. I think that's actually something that we're really looking forward to. And both of these guys bring some minutes and real experience, college experience. You don't play in any bigger games than for a college soccer player than in the national championship and taking a penalty. So nothing's going to faze Kurt. He's a confident guy, and we feel lucky to have him.
Thank you, Coach. And then a quick follow-up question. For the incoming freshman class, very exciting group. They have a lot of good experience. Just to name two real quick, Devin Stopek and Sanchez. How will we see those players fit in the team this season? Will it be like from the start, starting often? Will they be eased into the team? Like, how will we see them this season on the pitch?
Yeah, that remains to be seen, Matt. I'm not really sure about that. So, listen, those guys, we have a really good freshman group, again, with a lot of really good experience at the youth level, but some of them at the professional kind of second team level. If you look at our team right now of incoming freshmen, there's a guy that's not on our roster right now that we added recently, Eric Ruiz, who's played a ton of minutes for Red Bull 2. You've got Francesco DiPonzio, who's played a ton of minutes for NYCFC 2. Sanchez, you mentioned, played for Philly Unions 2 up until last weekend. Devin Stopek was with Philly for a really long time, and Nick Collins as well. But those other four guys have played a lot at that kind of MLS Next Pro level, so they're playing against men, which sometimes is a big challenge for guys. When they go from the youth to go into college, they're playing against guys who are 23, 24 years old, but these guys have already seen that already. So I don't expect that to be an issue for them at all. We're recruiting players that have ambition to be professional players. For whatever reason, they're here and taking a different pathway, or academics is a big part of what they want to be doing in this kind of stage of their career. So we have guys that I think are going to be able to come in and help us immediately. And that's always the goal for us recruiting-wise. It doesn't always work that way for injuries, et cetera. But I think these guys are all going to be pushing and challenging for playing time from the get-go.
Okay, I'm going to go to Aaron, and then Glenn will come back to you.
Thanks. Hey, Coach. Wanted to ask, just in terms of your overall philosophy with the non-conference schedule now and in the future with the conference changing. Obviously, you look at strength of schedule and home and road, all of that. But I was curious how much you look at different styles in terms of who you're playing, how that translates and prepares you for the Big Ten, and how you think maybe playing a different style might just help the team in terms of progressing and developing overall.
Yeah, listen, number one, Aaron, scheduling is really challenging. Just the way that ours kind of works out and the travel we have within our conference and the way our conference schedules, it's just a challenging time to get these games in such a short period of time. So that is the number one challenge, and sometimes you're just trying to make it work in terms of travel and how much you're on the road and all those types of things. So that's one. Yeah, we do look at style of play. What's their facility like if we're playing away? Do we want to play a game on turf? Are we playing out at Northwestern and they have a turf field? So do we use that to try to prepare ourselves if we can? There's all those types of dynamics. And then, like you said, you're also just trying to get good games that prepare you, test your team so that when you go and open up the first conference game of the season, no matter who that is, year in and year out, that's different, that you're ready for that. Because all the Big Ten teams are very, very difficult to play against. So, yeah, the scheduling part of it is difficult right now. We don't have enough weeks in the season to get enough games in and enough rest, in my opinion. So that's a big part of it as well. What does the recovery look like? Where are we coming back from? We're trying to avoid taking too many flights, if any, in the non-conference. This year we're going out to UCLA, but that's the only flight we have because we also have 3 flights, and we're not chartering flights, so we're dealing with travel, and there's a lot of difficulties with that. So all of that plays a part into it. And then we also want to play a team like Princeton every year, kind of a local game that we want to play every single year. We're trying to work out something with Seton Hall now for the future to say, hey, can we get some of our local opponents that we think are really good games from good conferences, good coaches, that make sense for us and make sense for them. So all those things go into it. And then you add in that we don't even know what our conference schedule looks like in 2024 right now. We haven't been given that. And obviously on the men's side, adding Washington, I don't know, less than a week ago, that all has to be reworked. So we're all sitting back and waiting, and we'll see where that all goes. But always exciting to add good teams. So no complaints there. It's just kind of what does it look like? We just don't know.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Do you normally get 3 scrimmages in before the regular year starts? Maybe you do. I just don't remember. But do you normally get 3?
Last couple of years we've done 3, and normally I think in years past we didn't do that because we didn't feel like our team was maybe ready for that because you needed a little more time. But now we're getting guys training all summer. Most of our team, probably 80% of our team has been working with our strength coach for the last 3 weeks or so. So we feel like we're in a pretty good spot in terms of, hey, can we get the guys in and jump in and get to see some competition instead of kicking each other the whole time. Hey, play against another team and get an outside test, and also just get some practice in a game day routine. But it changes every year, but I like it if we can work it out schedule-wise.
You mentioned Rosamelia. What's his fitness?
Yeah, he's 100% fit, ready to go. Nico had a quad issue last year, and it just was one of those things that just would always just kind of keep coming back. And he, I don't know how much you guys know Nico, but he's like a diligent guy, like really works hard, is very kind of professional in his mentality to kind of get into the training room and have a routine and take care of himself. But it was just one of those things. Every time we thought he was cleared and did everything right, he'd tweak his quad again. And so we then really shut him down. And right now he's 100%. He's cleared to do everything from the start of preseason, physically tomorrow. So, I think he's in a good spot.
If I could ask one more, I don't know how much more you're going to talk about last year from here on out, but do you ever get any sort of explanation? So you win the Big Ten championship, you beat Indiana 3-1, and then you go on the road for the NCAA tournament. Do you ever get explanations for things like that?
No.
Is there any, you do any digging to find out what the hell happened?
No, they just don't really give you a whole heck of a lot of information. They just don't. And listen, you just kind of have to just move on from it. But yeah, I think it's something that we talk to our players about and remind them. every game matters. Every single game for the whole season matters, because if you're lucky enough to have a good season or win a conference championship, and you're trying to situate yourself in the NCAA tournament, which is one of the ultimate goals every year, is to just get into that tournament so you can kind of be in the mix and have a pathway to kind of keep winning and keep your season going. Every game you win is helping you when you're talking about seeding and all those types of things. And so I think it's an area that our team can grow from last year and make sure, hey, there's a big difference between losing a game and tying a game. There's a big difference between maybe having a chance to win a game but only tying a game. Those little things make a huge difference at the end when you add them all up. So, hey, let's try to keep our kind of future in our own hands by winning more games and competing against the best teams, and then hopefully you don't have anything to complain about. But you just got to deal with it, and ultimately the games get decided on the field. You know that, Glenn. So it's like, hey, wherever you're playing, you just got to get up for it and play. So it is what it is, but not many explanations, no.
All right, thanks.
All right, we'll wrap up here with Alex and then Mike.
Coach, something that I'm picking up on is just the youth of this team and how this team, not just last year and this year going in, you're looking to build a team for years to come that could not just compete but to win at all levels. This youth, has really stood out, especially last year. Freshman, sophomore playing big roles on a Big Ten title team in 2022. How crucial will be the development of these underclassmen for them not just play well and take leadership roles, but how can they further build upon that to build a trend for Rutgers that youth is winning games for this program?
Yeah, I think it's interesting in that we've got some guys that we're putting some more kind of leadership and expectations on that were sophomores last year as well. You look at someone like Matt Acosta, who's maybe one of the most important players on our team, has had a great career, has started every game for us for 2 years, but now he's a junior, right? So it's like, a thing we talk to him a lot about is, hey, we know you're a good player. We know you're going to play well. He's just has great ability, great mentality. He's tough, technically really good, suits the way I want to play. But, hey, how do you make other guys better around you? How do you kind of inspire others around you? That's a big challenge for him. And a guy like Joey Zielinski, again, who's played so many minutes. We know he's going to play. He's just always in and around there just because of his competitiveness. All right, but what's the next step for you? Can you make these young guys settle in quickly? And I think if you look at our team last year, the depth of our team was vitally important. We didn't talk about it a lot, but that week of our semifinal final of our conference playoffs, we had our team, almost the whole team had the flu, and we had guys step up that we didn't know if they were going to be healthy, and other guys had to fill in, and that's what the expectations are. And you touched on it a little bit, and it's exactly what we're trying to do is we want to be good every single year, and we want to be consistently good every single year. And you've got to recruit well. Guys have to develop when they're in the program. Guys have to make each other better, and that's the ultimate goal. Can you be good every single year and compete for championships every single year? That is what we're hoping to do, and that's what a program is all about. Instead of just having a good team here and there, you're trying to have that be something that kids want to be a part of, which I think my staff has done a really good job of recruiting good kids and good players that want to be part of something special. So we look at our team. We have 30 players on our roster right now. We have 18 players from New Jersey. So it's an exciting time for us to continue to kind of have the real backbone of our team be guys from New Jersey, but while also being able to pull a couple of guys from Portland or other guys from the tri-state area, a couple of international guys, but the real kind of thick of our team, 60% of our team are our local guys.
Thanks again, Coach. All the best in 2023.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, go ahead, Mike, and then we'll end with Brian.
All right, Coach, thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to piggyback off of a couple of questions that were just asked. When you talk about the importance of your veteran players, also mixing with the youth movement that you have when you have leaders like you mentioned Matthew Acosta, you mentioned Joey Zielinski, what do you look for in these 3 scrimmage games, preseason games, if you will, that you have coming up as you get ready for the regular season opener against Delaware on the 24th? What are what are some of the matchups or lines that you're going to have that you want to look to see you can put together before that opener?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what these preseason games are all about. I think we kind of like to build, or I like to kind of build it up. This first game, our first preseason game, will hopefully play everybody, if not close to everybody in that game. Let everybody get that first little taste of playing a college game. But then also try to work on, as the preseason goes and these other kind of training sessions in between these scrimmage games, you're trying to build relationships with players. You know, you look at some other players, guys that have played for us last year, a Colin Beasley, a guy like Nestor Cabrera. What partnerships are those guys? They maybe didn't start a ton of games for us last year, but they played big minutes for us. I'll use Nestor as a good example. I mean, he had a long summer last year, so when he came into our season, it was a challenge for him. He's had a great offseason, played for the U20 Guatemala in the World Cup, the Under-20 World Cup. He's had a little bit of a break, which allowed him to kind of get his legs back, and I think he's a guy that could come in and have a big season for us. But during these preseason games, you're trying to mix and match and see what relationships can really grow in there. We've got a lot of players with quality, so who work well with each other, and those partnerships end up being, I think, sometimes the difference in moments in games where two or three guys maybe work really well together and they can make the difference, and then maybe you bring some other guys off the bench that work really well together and they can make a difference in a different game. So that's what we're starting with preseason, and there's nothing like playing outside competition, right? I think you can play against each other all day long, but they know each other so well where sometimes they almost cancel each other out in training. There's nothing like getting out and playing some other outside competition and get tested in some different ways.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Brian.
You mentioned earlier competing for championships. Obviously, last year you guys won that Big Ten tournament championship. Is that a reasonable expectation now every year for this program? Are they at a point where they can compete for a championship, whether that's a regular season championship, a tournament championship, etc., every season? And if so, how does that raise the program? How does that raise expectations? How do your players kind of have to lead with that? Because obviously it's one thing to say you want to win a championship, but now that you have won it and shown you can, how does that change kind of how you operate the program?
Yeah, I think winning always helps, right? When you win the championship, it kind of, you're not just telling people that, even whether it's through recruiting or whatnot. I think something that's lost from our season last year a little bit is we finished second in the league last year. And I think if we didn't win the conference championship, the tournament championship, I still think that's something that we would have been talking about more, because finishing second in our league is difficult. In 2019, we finished 9th out of 9 teams, my first season here. So the group has come a long way. But I've always said to our guys, I want us to have high expectations on ourselves. And if we don't meet them, then you kind of have to regroup and evaluate from head coach all the way down to the last player on our roster. That's kind of the nature of sports. But I think it's not only a goal of ours, I think it's something that we talk about all the time. We should have the expectation, and we do have the expectation, to finish in the top of our league all the time. We know everybody else is fighting for the same thing. Everybody's having those same conversations. But, yeah, we should. And I think, as I've said from the get-go here, is that we have really good players in our area. We're recruiting them like crazy. We're not going to get all of them, but we're getting some of the top players in our region to come here. And with that, gives us a chance to beat any team in the country. And again, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and our players have to, do their jobs and really compete every day in training to have that chance. But we have the talent. We've got the group here that, and the way that I think we're attracting players, the facilities that we have here at Rutgers, being in the Big Ten. I think the expectation for us is to finish in the top of our group all the time, and it should be. And again, we might not all the time, but that needs to be the expectation. And I think not run away from that. And I think our players understand that. And ultimately, that's why they came here, because that's what we're telling them, that we think we're attracting a group that can win things here, and that's why they're here. So, yeah, that's always going to be the expectations at Rutgers Soccer, and it should be.
Thanks, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Again, well, thank you guys so much for jumping on. Thank you so much, Jim. If you guys need anything, the season starts officially on August 24th. The team will be at Delaware. And then we'll have our home opener after that. But if you guys need anything, you'll have my email, my cell number. So please reach out. But thank you guys all again so much for hopping on.
Guys, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to Aaron. I'm happy to talk anytime. Make time for you guys whenever you need be. But I really appreciate you jumping on.